Christopher Nolan is a visionary filmmaker.
He really is a genius.
3 of the top most discussed movies of the last 20 years were directed by Christopher Nolan, and yet all of them feel different. But how? How does he hack into your brain and pull you into his world? Is it his mind-bending storytelling or unparalleled filmmaking style? From Memento to Oppenheimer, I've noticed some patterns that he uses to craft a masterpiece. By the end, you will know all of his secrets and why he's one of the greatest directors of all time. We all know Christopher Nolan's storytelling and filmmaking style is unique, but who influenced him? What is his past? Well, Christopher was born in creativity and adventure, as his father ran an advertising company, while his uncle John and aunt Kim were actors on British TV. Chris was quickly introduced to films. At the age of 6 years old, he ended up watching Star Wars, which made him fall in love with cinema. And by the age of 7, he started directing. But there was another film that shaped his directing style. It was Stanley Kubrick's 2001 A Space Odyssey that convinced him to make a career in filmmaking. And that's how we got to see his first debut film, The Following. But before talking about that, he also directed a short movie called Doodlebug, where he also uses the concept of recurrence and gives a really impactful story, where we see a person totally disturbed and trying to kill a bug, and we get to know the bug is him himself. In just 3 minutes, Nolan gave an interesting idea on which you can think for hours. And then came his debut film, Following, which was made with under $6,000, as the movie did not have a big budget and couldn't afford expensive lights. That's why they decided to film it in black and white. The movie was shot on weekends with friends and introduced his love for non-linear storytelling and practical effects, a hallmark of his career. But he had a major setback. Not a single studio picked it up for distribution. But Chris decided to take his pictures to Rotterdam for the film festival. Within a month, they showed The Following at the Slam Dance Film Festival, where Next Wave Films immediately offered to buy the rights. That's how The Following made $48,482. And that's how his career started, as after this we get to see his next movie, Memento. Some even say that it's their favorite film of Christopher Nolan and his best. Then Insomnia, the Batman trilogy, Prestige, Inception, Interstellar, Dunkirk, Tenet, Oppenheimer. Notice how each movie has a different genre. So how does he pull off these different genres and print blockbusters? Christopher Nolan isn't just a director, he's the architect of modern blockbusters. Let's start with Batman. In 2005, he gave us some of the grittiest, most grounded superhero movies we had ever seen. But it was The Dark Knight in 2008 that truly redefined the genre. Why? Well, 3 reasons stand out. First, Nolan didn't give us a typical superhero. He gave us a flawed human one. Second, The Dark Knight dives deep into the moral complexity of humanity. Remember those chilling lines? It puts a question on the face of humanity. Are we really humans or just animals? Then there's Inception. This one shattered storytelling norms. A Redditor nailed it. It's the perfect blend of an abstract idea, stunning cinematography, and an emotionally compelling story. And let's be real, when Inception ended, how long did it haunt you? 2 days? 3? I remember watching every YouTube video I could find just to understand that spinning top. And you probably did the same, right? But Nolan didn't stop there. Interstellar took things to a whole new level. A sci-fi movie with an emotional roller coaster? Who even thinks of that? It made us cry, question time itself, and Google what's inside a black hole at 2 a.m. After watching that movie, I literally tried to understand black holes, but I found out that, yeah, I'm not Nolan. I can clearly say that Interstellar was a perfect bridge between art and science. With Interstellar, we thought that Nolan could only make a sci-fi movie, but guess what? He makes a war movie and proves us wrong again. What I like is that unlike typical war movies filled with monologues and patriotic speeches, Dunkirk relies on action and sound. The film focuses on the soldiers' immediate survival rather than grand strategies or historical exposition. Dunkirk avoids glorifying war. It's about the quiet triumph of survival. And as we know, Nolan doesn't like CGI. So all the bomb scenes, yeah, they were created using real explosives instead of visual effects. And those vast crowds of soldiers you see, many of them were actually cardboard cutouts, placed meticulously to create the illusion of thousands. Every detail in Dunkirk feels real because Nolan demands it to be real. And how can I forget about The Prestige? Well, if you think Prestige is a movie about magic, then you're wrong. It's all about the lengths people will go to for recognition and the consequences of their choices. It explores the theme of sacrifice, as Borden sacrifices his personal life, while Angier gives us humanity in pursuit of perfection. Again and again, Nolan has proved us wrong, and successfully, he has delivered a different feeling in every single movie. But now let's reveal how this magician shows a new trick with every single movie. And there are 3 points to it. His first main weapon is non-linear storytelling. Nolan's obsession with time isn't just a gimmick, it's a narrative tool. He used this trick for his first movie, and to me, Memento was a perfect example of this. I mean, listen to how he narrates his movie.
That's basically the end of the movie. This stuff is the black and white stuff, and this is running backwards as a series of jumps. We cut between the two the whole way through. Scene here, scene there, and they meet towards the end of the film.
From starting early on, Nolan had this obsession with time.
Well, people very often ask me, why am I interested in time? I say, well, because I've always lived in it. We feel very trapped in it.
Nolan's approach to a story is very precise and calculated. He cleverly puts every story in some kind of puzzle, and then little by little, every piece completes the picture. The final picture can have many variations depending on how the viewer watches the movie. His second trick that makes Chris's movies so different is his dedication to realism and authenticity. Nolan tries to be as natural as he can, whether it comes to using big IMAX cameras or lighting. We can see that Nolan is a big fan of expensive artificial lights. Not only this, we know how much he hates CGI, like the audience, which is his third magic trick. Whether it's blowing up a whole building or making a rotating room. In Batman, he literally blew up a building just for it to be real. And for Inception, the scene where the whole room is upside down is in fact real. The Trinity test explosion for Oppenheimer without CGI is Nolan's commitment to realism unparalleled. But that's not where he stops. Instead of just making a visual masterpiece, he also knows how to tap into the feelings of viewers. Critics often accuse Nolan of being emotionally cold, but moments like Hobbs' goodbye to Mal in Inception or Cooper's heartbreak in Interstellar prove otherwise. Also, Nolan has a great way of exploring different themes like morality, memory, identity, and sacrifice. And Batman is a perfect example of exploring morality, whereas Memento gives us a deep dive into identity. In The Prestige, the duality of the magician mirrors Nolan's recurring exploration of identity and sacrifice, and similarly, Oppenheimer examines the moral weight of creation. But all of these moments are incomplete without this one thing, and that is sound. All the moments in his movies are enhanced by Zimmer's iconic scores, embedding emotion into every frame. Yes, he's not in every movie, but he's certainly there a lot. Nolan says himself too, as he states, each successful film I've done with Hans, I've tried to involve him at an earlier stage. Their partnership has redefined how stories are told and experienced on the big screen. For Interstellar, Zimmer composed the score before filming even began, allowing the music to guide the film's emotional beats. And in Inception, he gives time. This track is truly iconic and captures the heart of Cobb's journey. Also in Dunkirk, Zimmer used the shepherd tone to create unrelenting tension, mirroring the soldier's anxiety. Nolan and Zimmer's partnership has changed how we experience movies forever. But when you are on the top, you also hear many people criticizing you, and Nolan is no stranger to that. One common critique is that Nolan's characters lack emotional depth. They argue that his films prioritize ideas over feelings, leaving audiences disconnected. But let's look closer. Take Interstellar, for example. Copper's goodbye to his daughter Murphy isn't just a scene, it's a dagger to the heart. His decision to leave his family behind to save humanity is a conflict that any parent would struggle with. Nolan doesn't spoon-feed the emotion. Instead, he lets the silence, the ticking clock, and Matthew McConaughey's performance do the talking. Then there's the claim that his films are too complex. Critics often point to Inception and Tenet, saying they're impossible to follow. But here's the thing, Nolan doesn't just want you to watch his movies, he wants you to solve them. That's the key. He respects his audience enough to trust they'll do the work. Remember the first time you saw Inception? That spinning top at the end, it wasn't just a cliffhanger, it was an invitation to debate, rewatch, and obsess. And we wonder why the film was so successful. And famously, the infamous style over substance argument. Sure, Nolan loves spectacle, but it's never empty. see. And that's the key. The practical effects in Dunkirk, like using real Spitfires for the aerial dogfights, aren't just visually stunning, they immerse you in the chaos and urgency of survival. So is Nolan overrated, or is he redefining what we expect from modern cinema? What do you think?